Hey guys, look what's behind me. It is a giant bus. So I just picked this thing up. It's a 2001 American coach. I believe it's made, yes, it's made by Fleetwood. And it is a diesel vehicle. So we'll be able to do some diesel stuff with you guys. Granted, it's a heavy duty, or medium duty, I think they call it, diesel engine. So it may or may not apply to some of the stuff you guys are working on. It is the powertrain in this is an 8.3 liter Cummins. It's a 330 engine, and it has a 6-speed Allison transmission behind it. I think the series it's a 3000 series Allison. The first thing that I want to do with this with you guys is I want to show you how to replace a leaking seal in the power steering pump. And the pump that's in this, it may actually do more than power steering. It is a V20 pump made by Vickers is the company, and actually the research I did, they mentioned Eaton too. That's E-A-T-O-N. I think I spelled that right. Eaton Vickers V20. Now I may be off on the Eaton part, but it was very, very difficult to find out what I needed to fix this. And for you RV guys out there, you're going to appreciate this because I did hours of research in trying to find the correct pump, the correct seals, and that's the part I want to go through with you guys. We'll make this quick and look for more in the future. I'm getting ready to go on a trip out west with my family, so we're talking 4,000 mile round trip. And trust me, a 15-year-old, 16-year-old coach, you want to make sure that everything is sound and ready to go. So I'm going to film different segments, things like the generator, the coolant and the oil in the generator, the fuel filter for that part, as well as the fuel filter for the engine, the coolant for the engine. Even a coolant change is a little bit more complicated than what I'm used to. There's different filters they use and different additives for corrosion inhibitors and things like that. And then we'll do, you know, the oil change, and we'll do the hydraulic fluids, we'll do the transmission, the filters in that, and man, there's a whole bunch of stuff that we can do. And again, looking to expand on my channel here a little bit and deal directly with you RV guys. So if this is your first time here, my name is Paul Danner, and I specialize in automotive repairs. And I'm going to take that information, my knowledge base, which is 24 years in the field, and apply it to this RV, and I'm confident that I can do it well. So thanks for joining me. First video for you guys on the RV, the V20 hydraulic pump. Unfortunately, I didn't record the first part of this. I didn't anticipate actually on making a video on this. So what I'm showing you guys right now is pictures of the pump before I took it off of the engine. And this is a sideways picture. It actually would sit in this direction. And so if you look at this just to the right over here, there's the bottom of the oil pan. And so I'm looking straight up at this pump. And where it was leaking, guys, it was leaking right in this area right here. So right underneath the 4 bolts, right in that seam is where it was dripping, and I caught it actually unintentionally. I was doing a coolant change, and I saw some dripping that I hadn't seen before, and we just came back from a 14-hour drive visiting my brother over the holiday weekend, and man, it was leaking the whole time, and I had no idea. So, of course, the first thing I tried to do was make sure the bolts were tight, and those were very tight, actually, and that's where kind of panic set in. I didn't know what I was dealing with, and so let me show you the next step, which was trying to find out what this thing was. And this was taken on the bottom of it. That's just me looking for numbers on this thing, and, of course, those numbers didn't help me. So I started doing measurements just to see maybe if I could get a gasket or something like that. And this may help some of you as far as size and what you're dealing with. It looks like that particular measurement was about 3 inches from bolt to bolt, center of the bolt to center of the next one. And then I did some diagonal measurements too, and that one looks like about maybe 4¼ inches diagonally. So again, some of you, that may help. Looks like the whole housing is, you know, just over 4, maybe 4½ inches. And then this was a shot, thankful for my 10-year-old son, who was able to get his head in there above it and take a digital photo of the pump itself. So let me focus you guys on the numbers on this. You see the wording at the top is kind of worn away, but I could see, you know, below this area here, you can't really see it well in this image. It did say Vickers down here. I had another image that showed that, but here's the numbers. It's a V20. It shows the build date of the compressor is day 14, I think that is, of 2000. And the number up top, this 1S13S38C11, that was the number that I punched in online, this V20 first, and then the number after that, and I was able to locate the parts for this compressor. And what I was interested in is what is inside of this thing. What am I getting into if I take this apart? And again, where were the numbers for this, for you guys that are looking for yours? This is the bottom. This is me laying on the ground. Here's the oil pan to the right. The numbers for this were above, so I had to put my digital camera up in here and take a shot from above to get the numbers off of the unit. If I don't remember to tell you guys later, you see I cleaned it off. Before you take this apart, you guys need to make sure that you are cleaning this better than I did. I had some debris on the top that when I unbolted it, it actually fell down inside, and I had to clean all of that out to make sure that I didn't have debris in this pump assembly when I was finished. So a suggestion is to take an old toothbrush, some carb or brake clean, and really scrub this thing off really, really well before you pull it apart. Well, I was looking for the seal kit numbers that I found earlier, and I'm having a difficult time finding them. In the meantime, I found this PDF from Eaton on rebuilding this, and there's an issue here that I need to look at, because when I pulled this housing off, I potentially have the ability to put this backwards according to this picture. So what it says is view from the cover end, so this would be from the back side, I assume, and the direction that the arrow is pointing is the direction the shaft turns. If it turns counterclockwise, then you want the kind of egg-shaped hole facing that way, and if it turns clockwise, you can see it's opposite. So that's something I need to look for on this thing, and I'm not really sure how I'm going to determine the rotation without starting the engine, and I'm not sure that I want to do that, but I'm glad I found that. The last thing I want to do is steer you guys wrong. The biggest thing is making sure when you pull it apart that you mark this stuff, and yeah, I didn't do that. That's a rule number 1 on unfamiliar components, and I screwed up there. Here's the seals that I'm changing. It's these two guys right here, just the O-rings. There's another seal that's internal on this part of the unit that I'm not taking apart. It is not leaking, and I am just not going in that far for this one. So we're just doing the 2 outer O-ring seals. That's these two guys right here. And I'll show you this on the vehicle here in a second. You want to be careful. You pull this front housing off, there's a spring that sits in here, and then behind that, when you pull this second housing off, this rotor will stay onto the shaft, which is up here. It'll extend through, and there's little pieces. See these veins? Those veins will pop out. I'll show you guys those in a minute, so you want to be very, very careful with that. Another piece of important data, just reading this paragraph here. It says with a minimum drive speed of 600 RPM, a pump should prime almost immediately if provision is made to initially purge air from the system. Failure to prime within a reasonable length of time may result in damage due to lack of lubrication. Inlet lines must be tight and free from air leaks. However, it may be necessary to crack a fitting on the outlet side of the pump to purge entrapped air. So another thing I need to consider putting this back together is if it is airbound, that I can damage this pump, and it's something else we need to think about. So we'll see how it goes. Alright, let's give props where it's due. This is from Eaton's website. It would be www.eaton.com. I got a PDF on the V20. What was my Google search for this? I don't remember. It's a Vickers vane pump made by Eaton. So I did state that right earlier. And I found this. This is what allowed me to find the parts that I needed. So it's this O-ring here, and that's see table 6. We'll look at that in a second. Mine is the V20, not the V20F. Over here's the V20F, and here's the second O-ring, is this one. Okay, and they both are actually taking me to the same place. This O-ring, table 6. It's a triangle and a 0 on table 6. So we look at table 6 and we look at the V20 model. There's the triangle and there's the triangle and circle. The number that were the seal kit, so that says O-ring. That, I guess that's a specific O-ring. I tried looking up that number, couldn't find it. But this number right here, this 922733, you'll find everywhere on the internet. And I actually bought this kit off of Amazon using that number. Even though it said, see it says F3-V20, they had it listed like that where I purchased it, but it was this number. And this is the number I wanted, and it looks like I got the right kit. So you guys that are following me and have a V20 hydraulic pump, this is your seal kit right here, 922733. The kit cost me $9. I had it overnight. I think it was like $14 to get it, and I ordered it at like 4 o'clock yesterday, and it came today, literally 24 hours later. So going to the vehicle now, and I have to make sure that I have this housing right. Can I use this page for that? I might be able to cross-reference these numbers, even though mine does not have an F3 in front of it. I'm going to look at this and see if it tells me right hand or left hand, because it is giving me designations for that. Well, I got lucky, guys. Sometimes it helps to get lucky, and fortunately the stamping that was on the bottom of this, if you remember from my digital photos that I showed you, that was actually on the bottom, so I'm in luck. I don't have to worry about the direction of this and which way this faces. Now I did kind of pay attention to it, and you really can't get it wrong. You see it's angled this way, the kind of egg-shaped hole, okay? And if I flip that 180, you're going to see that it's still going to be the same as far as where these are. So it's not going to be opposite. I'm not really sure what that illustration was showing, but it did have me concerned because there are some differences in the maybe wear marks or the way that this is machined. And there is a piece of cat hair. Stupid cats. I need to make sure there is no debris in here at all. Look at that. A piece of hair. But fortunately for me, I don't need to worry about this, and I don't need to worry about starting it and figure out what direction it's turning, because I have stamped numbers, so I know that's the bottom. Now I did make sure when I pulled this out, this part, let me show you, hopefully without losing all of these. See how easily those are coming out. So if I can pull this out of here. See my little vanes are pulling out. See, I don't want to pull this out now. What I wanted to make sure that you guys could also see is that these vanes were clean, and some little bit of dirt on my hands. It's not good. That's what I'm saying. You got to clean this housing better than I did before you pull this apart. Cleanliness is critical here. I lost, whenever I pulled it apart, 4 of these vanes fell out onto the ground, and I had to clean them up and put them back in. But what we want to make sure is that each of these vanes moves freely in here, okay? So I'll just make sure that all of them move. And if they don't, that's an indication of dirt or debris that's gotten in there. I'd really like to take this back out again, but those vanes are kind of staying there. Let's see if I can. I want to show you guys this a little bit better. It's just kind of suctioned from the oil that's in there. There's one I just dropped. There's 2. I want to make sure I don't get this backwards either, because I was careful when I pulled it out to keep at least that part right. So I want this side facing in there. So the side that's on my hand is going to face in, okay? And I just dropped 2 of these. And I had 4 that were that dropped out before, so there's no way that I could have known which 4 went where. So that was a concern for me. And if you look at this, you can see a kind of silver line on that side, and then not on that side. So what I did is I looked at the ones that didn't fall out, and I looked at the direction. So I'll pull this one out and let you see. You see that kind of darker or shiny spot is facing toward me, okay? And so I want to make sure that I'm doing the same thing for these ones. It just kind of indicates the direction that it was turning. And then the other thing I looked at is the thickness. See how there's more of the area here on this side. It's kind of thicker there and thinner there. The line's not centered. So I want to make sure that I'm putting it back in there the same way. Again, the fatter part here. I don't know if the camera's showing that. Going toward the inside of the gear. And then this one, the same thing. So I want to be real careful. Look at that. Another piece of stupid cats. Hate cats. I have 2 of them. Now they're okay. I'm just a dog lover. I'm not a cat lover. And actually, that could have been from my boxer too, so I shouldn't blame the cat. Alright, so I want to make sure these aren't falling out, but I want to make sure that each of these, this moves freely and there's no binding, because centrifugal force is going to throw these out. Okay, we want to make sure that each of these move just like that. I don't want any binding at all. And now, just from talking to you guys, I got to pay attention to what I'm doing. This was the side facing us. I don't know that it would matter. But I don't want to get it backwards. see just from talking what that does. Feels like it's binding a little bit. That's okay. I wouldn't be overly concerned about this if I didn't drop some of them. The fact that I did bothers me. All right. Inside of this, is it clean? Yes. Alright, when this spins, the way this pump works is centrifugal force is going to throw these vanes out, and it's going to do the pumping action from one side to the other. And of course I'm not going to spin that fast enough to throw these vanes out. But I'll tell you what, when I put this back together, we're going to put some fresh oil in there. In fact, I'll do that right now. Just a AW32 hydraulic oil. I got that from Lowe's, and it does meet the right specs for this. This thing holds about 5 gallons of this stuff. Now most of that's going to leak out when I turn it sideways, but I definitely want to have oil in there. Again, just want to make sure that each of these is moving like it should and they're not sticking. I don't want any dirt in here. I noticed they will stick if they're not sunk all the way, if they're kind of sticking up a little bit, but that'll take care of itself once this thing is back in place. These will all sit like in their natural position, which is not laying flat like this. All right, we're good. The O-rings that I pulled out, see this one's kind of messed up a little bit. And these are square. The ones I got are round, but I don't see that being an issue. We're gonna be fine. We're gonna lubricate those too. All right, let's go put this back together. The one seal that I'm not doing is the internal one. That's inside. We'll save that for a rainy day in case I got to do this again. But it was just the outer ones that were leaking. So let's go to the pump on the vehicle now and put this back together. Okay, first thing is this inside O-ring. And I don't believe that I need to lubricate this, but I'm going to anyway. And the torque spec on these was between 75 and 85 foot-pounds, so it's pretty tight. Okay, next piece with our numbers down is this vane assembly. So as you see, I have the vanes inside of here already. And I'm kind of keeping one hand on the inside piece, so I don't want those falling out. Sorry for the movement of the camera. You have to get the splines lined up. Once the splines were lined up, that went right in. Wait, I did not realize that was separate right there. I didn't even know that that piece came off. Got my numbers right. Yes. So as I'm pushing this back in, I did not even realize that this comes out. It was staying attached. When I pulled it off, alright, good to know. There's no seal there, it was just being held on by just oil. It kind of helps keep everything stabilized, those pins, it looks like. And I don't remember. Yeah. You see, I left this housing on because I didn't realize it with all the dirt. I tried taking this nut off, and it only turned so far and backed out and hit here. You wanted to separate it here first before you did the inside one. I just left it on, so we should be fine. This housing's clean. The other O-ring sits in here. It would probably be better and easier had I taken this off here, because now I'm going to be fighting the hose and lining this up at the same time. I don't know. I may have to separate it because there's one other piece that's going to be an issue, and that's the spring, and the spring sits here. So I have to align the spring, I have to align the O-ring, and yeah, I don't know. The directions actually said, kind of cool here, is to use grease, a little bit of grease to hold this spring in place. It said petroleum jelly or grease. Didn't specify what kind of grease. So I'm just using some grease that I have. And the grease holds the spring on there. So that's kind of cool. Okay, the next O-ring goes in this housing here. This part's not going to be fun. I don't even know if it'll stay. I want to put grease on this O-ring too. If I can go straight on, that should hold. Okay, O-ring's in place. This part, man, I'll tell you what, I can see why the O-ring that was on here was kind of stretched out. I have to make sure that this O-ring stays in place and doesn't move. I was thinking of putting some grease on there, but it seems to be pretty well. No, that's pretty loose. Let's do it. Let's grease it. Just something a little tacky, you know? Help hold it in place while we put this thing together. Not worried about the inside one. Just using front end grease. It's going to act as a glue a little bit. Man, I wish that spring wasn't there. Alright, so you guys doing this in the future, take the line off. This line is fighting me right now. Light won't stay put. Camera angles suck. Spring's in my way. My head needs to be over there. This sucks, man. That's the best this camera angle's gonna do. I need a cameraman for this job. This is crazy. Where can I put my light? Sorry, I had the flashlight in my mouth the whole time there. Couldn't talk, but maybe that was good. We'll do a little fast forwarding there. I gotta tighten this line back up. That's the only one I loosened. Alright, so last thing with this is I need to worry about air, and it mentioned like loosening a line to discharge the air. Man, I hope I don't have to do that, because it would have to be this line. Well, let's fill the system back up, cross our fingers that we did this right. Alright guys, I'm going to start with a gallon and then we'll go from there. You see the tag on here, use ISO viscosity grade 32 anti-wear hydraulic oil only. And did some digging on hydraulic oils, and the particular part number that I'm using is 54012. This was bought at Lowe's. I'm comfortable with this. Some of the other fluids were more specific, like the engine oil. They recommended a 1540 Valvoline Premium Blue, I think, and I'll go over that later when we do the oil change. But the hydraulic fluid, the ISO 32 or AW32, and this says AW32 Pro Select AW32. Hydraulic oil is blended from highly refined virgin based oils and an additive package providing protection from rust, corrosion, and foaming. So anti-wear. Yep, so that's what I'm going with. Like I said, I'm just going to start with a gallon here, and then check for leaks underneath. And that would be without starting the engine, of course. Just kind of a static leak test. And this held about 5 gallons when I drained it. I just about filled a 5-gallon bucket, so I'm gonna go eyeball that underneath. Well, it looks good. So, sorry I didn't take you with me. Just did a visual. Nothing leaking. So going with the next gallon. I know this is for power steering. I'm not sure what else runs off of this. It's an air brake system, so it wouldn't be involved with the braking in any way, shape, or form. I'm thinking of like a Hydro Boost system on some of our vehicles, our trucks. They'd use power steering fluid as the brake booster. So instead of using vacuum to assist the brakes, they would use hydraulics, and it would be shared with the power steering pump. So we did that on some of our cars and trucks. I'm not totally familiar with the braking system on this thing yet, but I'm pretty sure it's strictly air. So I don't think it's part of the brakes. The only other hydraulics on this that I'm for sure aware of would be the leveling jacks. But the leveling jacks have their own hydraulic system. It's completely independent from everything, and it actually uses a Dextron 3 for the oil as a recommend, and that's something else I'm going to change too, is the hydraulic oil in the leveling system. But one of my questions to my friend who is a diesel guy at Rosedale, one of our instructors, is know, why such a huge reservoir for just power steering? And I guess, you know, maybe part of it is this thing's 40 feet long, so we got to pump this fluid all the way up front. So I don't know. One of you diesel experts can chime in and fill us rookies in with that information. All right, that was 3 gallons. I know it'll take 4 for sure. When I drained this, sorry you guys missed that part, there's just a drain plug underneath this big cylinder, this reservoir that's holding it. No big deal. Take the plug out, drain it into a 5-gallon bucket. Is what I did. A little sight glass here is kind of cool. And kind of burped on me a little bit there. Let's get a stick it once. Yeah, still needs more. Thought maybe I overfilled it there for a second. It's just getting close, that's all. Well, you guys got to hear the birds chirp the whole time. All the happy birds around. I imagine when I start this is going to drop a little bit too and purge these lines. I'm a little bit nervous about the lines and that pump being dry, but it is low. I mean, this feeds directly into that pump, so it running dry on this design with this reservoir being so much higher. And you saw the big thick line that went down to the pump that I didn't touch. That comes right from this reservoir. So there is no way that that pump is dry right now. There's a full cold and a full hot. Still down just a little bit. And again, I believe that's going to drop some when I start this. Alright, we're at the full cold level. Let's go start this bad boy.
Hey.
Want my pretty wife to be on the camera?
Nope.
Okay, moment of truth. Power steering actually feels better than it has. Wow. Those wheels are turning, right? Oh, they're back there.
These wheels are turning.
That's what I meant. I'm used to the wheels being in front. That's all. I'm like pointing up there. I'm not realizing my front wheels are behind me. Go check it for a leak. Well, the last thing I want to do is make BS YouTube videos, and I think sometimes, not sometimes, it's always helpful to show mistakes as well as it is fixes. And guys, I screwed up. This is the brand new O-ring on the outside, the one that I was concerned about, where I put grease around it. Well, look what I did. I cut it. I checked for leaks when I was filling it up. It was great. Turned the camera off. Once I put about 3 gallons in, it started dripping out before I ever even started it. And Yeah, so I took it apart and you know, I had to overnight this. We're leaving, today's Tuesday, we're leaving in like 4 days to go out west, and to be honest with you guys, I used one of the old O-rings. The reason why this is the one that was leaking. It was the outside one, the same one that I cut, really. And you can see like how it was kind of folded up on itself. I'm hoping that's picking up on the camera. And so I used the inside one, which is the same diameter on the outside for the one that I cut. And it's working great. You know, it almost looks like, being that this is a perfect square, that you know, I was thinking, well, maybe it was round at one point in time. It definitely wasn't. This was a square cut seal. The one that I put on the as the replacement were round seals, which are fine. They'll flatten out. But the issue was, and the mistake that I made, well, number one was the camera. The camera was in my way, and I couldn't focus on the vehicle, and I'm worried about the camera shots, and I'm worried about the spring falling out, and I'm worried about the O-ring, and there was just too many variables. That was one mistake. And number two, you know, not much I can do with the camera. I'm trying to film this. But number two, the main mistake that I made is I should have separated that line. And, you know, fighting that line at the same time fighting the spring and making sure this O-ring was in there was a problem. And, you know, I'm going to order some new ones to have them with me for this trip for sure. But if I would do this again, I think what I would do is I would pack that outer area with more grease to hold that O-ring in place, make sure the line was separate. And yeah, so I screwed up. Pretty big mistake. Learn from my mistake, guys. And sorry I didn't show the process of me doing it again. I just needed the camera out of my way, and I had to fix it. So I re-drained it, saved the fluid, rinsed out the bucket, and you know, reused the fluid. So disappointed in myself, but you know, hey, this is the way it goes. Another comment, guys, I mentioned when I was inside how nice and free the wheel felt. I have the leveling jacks up a little bit, so most of the weight is off the front wheels. So I can't say that the new fluid made a difference in that regard. But I'm happy right now it's not leaking. I'll let it warm up for a little bit, and we'll check it one more time. I'll get you guys back under there. And I'm comfortable with that. We were concerned with air pockets. I'm comfortable with that. It feels great. Again, most of the weight's off, so it's hard to judge that, but learn from my mistake. Be careful with those O-rings. I'll put in the description of this video, I'll put the part numbers that I used. And again, I want to remind you guys to pay attention to the descriptions in these videos, because I'll post related videos in there. So as I continue to work on this RV, I'll put other links to videos I've done for this RV for you guys that are following and trying to fix your units yourself. Thanks for joining me, guys. I'll see you next time.